Naziyah! Today, I want to dive into the case of 13-year-old Naziyah Harris, who went missing January 9th, 2024, shortly after getting off the school bus in Detroit, Michigan.
On January 9th, 2024, 13-year-old Naziyah Harris stepped off a school bus at the intersection of 3 Mile and Cornwall. She never made it home that day. Naziyah was a student at J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy, and there have been no leads in her disappearance. Naziyah is described as 5 feet 2 inches tall, weighing 130 pounds. She was last seen wearing a light blue jean shirt, light blue jean pants, a pink and white Rugrats coat with a fur collar, and blue and white Nike gym shoes. For several months, her family and the police have been searching for her, raising awareness through social media. This is when things took a spooky turn. During a search, a friend of a family member who had been asked to help with the case discovered a sneaker and reported it to the police. The shoe was handed over to the authorities for DNA testing, and they began to wait for the test results. Fast forward to now, it has been confirmed that the sneaker indeed belonged to Naziyah.
Situation about some shoes that came about, right? Well, there was an investigation going on by a church. Remember, there was like 9 different precincts investigating by the church. Well, I was live on the scene that day, and there was a lot of information being said on my live. They told me to shut my live down and go live somewhere else, right? Because the information being shut, right? So I went live to somewhere else was across the street. Me and Roxy went live and we found a pair of shoes, right? So we went live on a pair of shoes, and then the police called me back and said, hey, well, where are those shoes at? What's going on with the shoes? I said, well, we're right across the street. So they said, where are you at? So we waited there for an hour waiting for them to pull up. They didn't show up. Long story short, they went and recovered the shoes, and I found out, I got intel about 2.5 months later that they did an investigation on the shoes, a DNA test on the sweat, and they found out that those were actually her shoes after they did a DNA test on the sweat from the shoes, right? So there's a lot of things that are probably going to connect the dots.
A video began going viral on TikTok, showing a group of teenage boys searching for Naziyah. As they walked, calling out her name, a female voice suddenly responded.
Pussy, pedophile.
Everybody go look around.
She said she right here.
Everybody go look around.
She said she right here. You ain't hear the scream? She in the basement.
Huh?
She in the basement. She said, I'm right here in the basement.
Hold on, wait.
I don't know. Right here. She said, I'm right here in the basement. I'm here now. I'm in the basement.
You can clearly hear someone asking for help in the video, but it was later debunked by a friend of the family.
They walked past the house where there was apparently other teenagers in the house.
Some people don't even know me, and they coming out. Just don't stop.
The family of Naziyah Harris needs each and every one of us right now. Her father, Mervyn Jennings, is holding on to hope that he will see his daughter again, but it's been 10 weeks.
Yeah, there have been numerous searches, and yet they are no closer to bringing 13-year-old Naziyah home. Here's Pamela Osborne.
13-year-old Naziyah Harris, an 8th grader at J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy, is still missing. She was last seen on Tuesday, January 9th.
They came up to see me at the hospital. They asked me some questions about my daughter. Have I seen her? And I haven't seen my daughter.
Naziyah's father, Mervyn Jennings, had been in the hospital for weeks recovering from a stroke and other health issues when he learned of Naziyah's disappearance from school investigators. We know Naziyah went to school that day. She rode the bus home to her usual stop at Cornwall and 3 Mile.
They have, footage of her getting on the school bus, and the bus driver did say that she did get off at her regular stop, okay? And she was supposed to have been coming home, like she normally do.
Back in February, we spoke with Annette Harris, Naziyah's maternal grandmother and guardian. She reported Naziyah's disappearance to Detroit Public Schools Community District. Their police department launched an investigation the very next day, on January 10th. More than a month later, after hitting a roadblock, they notified Detroit police of Naziyah's disappearance. That was February 13th.
A 13-year-old girl named Naziyah.
DPD got to work immediately canvassing the East Side community where Naziyah lived and was last seen. It would be the first of many major searches.
I would describe as a metropolitan scavenger hunt. You know, the searches have been everywhere.
Tamara Smith, the DPD commissioner from the district where Naziyah went missing, helped us put pins on a map. Investigators from more than a dozen local, state, and federal departments have searched all over the city of Detroit, Clinton Township, also in and around Ann Arbor.
We've been heavily canvassing the area by Greater Grace Church, area around the Rouge River, outskirts of Brightmoor.
Specialized water rescue and recovery teams have assisted in some of the searches, while the net of concerned community members pitching in to help find Naziyah grows wider.
We had active gappers, people who are deemed to be the worst of the city, who were viciously out looking for her, passing flyers out, going door to door, canvassing. We all want the best. We want to see Naziyah home in the living.
Mervin suffers from congestive heart failure, but is out searching himself every day he's well enough to, with his wife Naziyah by his side.
It's just been very trying, taxing, and empty, but we're not going to stop.
They have been so moved by all who have turned out to help, especially since Naziyah's disappearance has caused a rift within the family.
You have moments in your life where you do think you're standing alone. And without anything, they come through. They come through and they there.
Naziyah's family is still waiting and wondering what happened to her after she got off of her school bus.
I want to see her again. You know, my son, my daughter wants to see her again.
On August 19th, 2024, police would announce the suspect in the disappearance of the 13-year-old was already in custody. But sadly, Marvin became ill searching for his daughter in abandoned houses and overgrown fields and wouldn't live to hear the news.
Under the search for answers in the case of missing 13-year-old Naziyah Harris. Tonight, Detroit police tell us the suspect in her disappearance is behind bars from another case. Loved ones who believe the suspect is the same man they have suspected all along.
The man who could soon be charged in the disappearance of 13-year-old Naziyah Harris is in his 40s, and he's already been charged with the sexual assault of a 7-year-old girl.
Now to find out that with his history, that he's been doing this all of these years, so God knows how many other children.
The man believed to be at the center of the 13-year-old's disappearance is on the sex offender registry after being convicted of a sex crime against a child in 2005. And in March, after Naziyah went missing, another teenage girl came forward to say the same man began to sexually assault her in 2015 when she was just 7 years old.
He basically came home from prison, and it seems like went right back to his same old activities.
Sadly, Naziyah's father, who had been battling health issues, recently died without ever finding out what investigators believe happened to his little girl. Details the rest of her family now waiting to hear, particularly Jernell and Kawana, who say for years they've been trying to raise the alarm on the man who is now at the center of the case.
A lot of the facts here are disturbing, to say the least.
The evidence shows overwhelmingly in this case that she is in fact deceased. The last time she was seen alive was January the 9th of this year, 2024, almost 9 months ago. Her missing status was reported to the Detroit Public School Police Department by her grandmother on that very day, when she never returned home from school. And again, that was January the 9th of 2024. In early February of 2024, the case was turned over to the Detroit Police Department. Frankly, that should have happened right away, but they began investigating immediately. The evidence would further show that through text messages that we know and that we have, Ziyah and this defendant were going to meet after school on January the 9th. We know that she did indeed meet up with the defendant that we're charging in this case. We also know that several people close to Mr. Butts, who we were charging later, saw them together in several different locations, people that he knew well. We have evidence that at 9:30 p.m. on that day, that Mr. Butts checked into a motel and that Ziyah was never seen or heard from again. Not from her family, not from her schoolmates, not from her friends, not from social media where she was extremely active with her friends, not from teachers, no one. We know that she had no medical conditions that would cause a life-threatening medical emergency to her. And he, again, was the last person that saw her alive. She would have turned 14 years old just 10 days ago on September the 16th of 2024. And again, no one has seen or heard from her. You look at that face and you do not see the horrors that she had gone through in her short life. The exploitation, the molestations, the sexual abuse, and the pregnancy that she was concealing. The evidence will show that from one of her text messages to and with Jarvis Butts. And we also know, the evidence will show, that there's no evidence of anyone else being the father of that child, other than the defendant himself, who we charged today. And he knew she was pregnant.
Jarvis Butts charged in the disappearance and death of Naziyah Harris, a former co-worker, testifying he was with Butts on that day, and so was Harris.
My son's grandma asked who the little girl was.
Did you introduce the little girl?
No.
Okay, who introduced the little girl?
Jarvis did.
And what did Jarvis introduce her as?
His niece.
The witness testifying he left Butts and Harris at the auto shop where they worked that night, and Butts didn't come to work the next day.
Have you seen her since January 9, 2024?
No.
Prosecutors allege Butts had gotten 13-year-old Naziyah Harris pregnant and killed her, and there was additional testimony from minors that he molested other children. Prosecutors also played a recording of Butts from behind bars, calling his friend, asking him to contact the mother of his children, Naziyah's aunt, to try to retrieve his cell phone.
I need you to call her one day and get that truck up there and get my phone out that back seat, Virgo.
The witness testifying he looked for the cell phone but couldn't find it. Prosecutors say the information on that phone will help prove their case, that Butts groomed Harris, had sex with her, and searched for ways to abort the unborn baby.
The Detroit man charged in connection to the death and sexual assault of 13-year-old Naziyah Harris is back in court.
Back in January, Jarvis Butts was with Naziyah Harris, according to the first witness on the stand, a co-worker of Butts. These guys worked on cars together. They had their own auto shop, and apparently, according to this first witness up today, guys, that Jarvis Butts, who is the suspect here, the defendant, was with Harris the day she went missing, the night she went missing, and he was introducing her around as his niece. She is not his niece, but related to someone that Butts was close to. So that is the time when the man who ran and owned the shop closed up shop and left Butts and Naziyah Harris, and he figured, I suppose, that they were going to go home, but then he never saw the teenager again. And that's the first witness up here, guys. And we're talking about the charges here against Jarvis Butts is really extensive here. We're talking about homicide, premeditated of Naziyah Harris, and then child sexually abusive activity, dealing directly with, again, 13-year-old Naziyah Harris, because she was apparently impregnated by Butts, and this was a motivating factor, and criminal sexual conduct of a minor, maybe other charges as well involving other victims. So this just got underway. It's gonna, we're told, Rhonda, it's going to be a day-long exam, and that's just scratching the surface. So we hope to learn much more about everything about this, because young girl's body has never been found.
As of today, the case is still developing as more information is uncovered. Jarvis Butts is currently awaiting trial in this case. His trial is set to proceed, with witness testimony scheduled to continue in January 2025. The prosecution has cited extensive evidence connecting him to Harris's last known whereabouts and other alleged criminal actions. I want to send condolences to the family and everyone affected by this situation. But like I said, it's still developing, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated on what happens in this case.